Well, they camped in the woods because of the Burkers, which was Bodysnatchers. And latterly the travellers called them Burkers after Burke and Hare. But there was a doctor that was well known in the traveller circles, a lot of stories about Dr. Sweetie. He would come round and give the kids a sweetie laced with chloroform. They'd come to the camp and they would try and judge the weight and the measurement. Sometimes they actually did measure the height of the kids and that. And they did it in such a way as to say, oh, what a big boy, look at the height of you and all this. But they were looking for people and kids of certain heights, certain genders, certain weights, different experiments.
Really specific.
Very specific. And there's been stories of kids being stolen out of the camps when they would come back and they would give the adults brandy or whiskey and get them drunk. And then when the kids were drowsy, they would steal them from under the tents and away. So lots of stories about that. Even like some old people in their 90s told me these stories quite recently. I remember them happening, and my mother used to talk about it a lot. And she said one time this doctor came and they wouldn't take sweeties off, and her father had them told didn't take sweeties from any stranger, you know. And he wouldn't take anything off them. And he said that doctor and his assistant, he said, it's no for trusting. And there's a great distrust of doctors now. We don't go to doctors. We don't like hospitals or doctors, and a lot of people just won't go. It's come right down historically. So anyway, later on that night, they left that tent up and they went and put another tent in another bit of the wood. And they watched, and the doctor came back with a big black car and his assistant, and they pulled the tent and that, and there was nobody there, and they were cursing mad because they were looking for them. And they said that they were sure that they were going to steal them away during the night. My mother told me that when she said the next morning, first light, they rolled the tent up and left completely. They walked about 15 miles, they got another piece of wood. But that was one of the things that, you know, is very strong in Scottish traveller culture about the Burkers, the Bodysnatchers.
Where did they actually come from, the Burkers? Where were they, what area were they in? Did they just travel around?
All over. They travelled round with a car, a big black car, and a bag of these chloroform laced sweeties, but we don't know if they took. There was suggestions they took bodies in this area to Dundee, but we don't know. We know for sure because Burke and Hare were hanged that they were doing it for Edinburgh.
So
for research.
They were like agents.
And then when that was sort of, people got wised up to that and we couldn't get them the same. There was also talk of vagrants going missing from the poorhouses. You don't know.
So it was vagrants, travellers and orphans probably and stuff like
people
that.
like that.
Yes,
people who could prey on. They couldn't be traced.
Vulnerable
no one,
groups.
And the thing about travellers, why they liked their kids, is because they didn't register them. So then, when this became known, the travellers started registering their kids, and they even would go and get married. So the kids were legitimate. And could have their own ceremony, you know, jumping over the broomstick, peeing in the pail and everything, making the fire and throwing the pea on it and all that stuff. But they would go and then have a legitimate ceremony because that way their kids were protected by the law. There was a trace of them, and they were, because if they were born out of wedlock, they didn't care anyway at that time. So that's why a lot, like my grandfather and granny on both sides, they went and registered their weddings in the registrar and went to a church and got married. And registered it out in registrars because then they knew all their kids were accounted for.
That's good.
But when that kind of was hit in the head and they couldn't get away with that, the other thing they would do was, you know, they would go body snatching from graves. Now, if it was unmarked graves or paupers' graves, well, who's going to worry?
Exactly, nobody. And so the thing with the woods came about because you could disappear up there.
Well, people would climb up trees in some cases.
You feel safer, I suppose.